Hello and welcome to Season 3 of the Push podcast. My name is Jack Ferguson, an experienced marketing and sales consultant with a science background, and I'm your host. This season of the podcast is essential listening for small and medium-sized companies looking for their next stage of growth. Myself and other experts will explore common problems in marketing, product, and sales. We will deconstruct them and then detail straightforward, evidence-based remedies for you. I aim to give you both inspiration and practical solutions to push through similar challenges in your own company. Thanks for being here, and don't forget to subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Hello and welcome to Season 3, Episode 13. This is the episode you've been waiting for. We're finally talking tactics. And not any tactics, but unusual, effective tactics for B2B companies. This is what you'll be able to use this month. The most seldom used tactics are often the most effective. So what are they, and how can your company use them to increase revenue? In this episode, we share stories where we've used unusual tactics to increase sales and marketing effectiveness. We talk about this problem through the lens of a hypothetical B2B company, Urquhart Studios. They're a software development company with 50 employees, and Sarah is taking the lead as CEO. As you hear us refer to Urquhart Studios and Sarah throughout this episode, you know what we're referring to now. So, some specifics of this episode. What are we going to talk about? Number 1, simple event strategies that are low cost but high impact. 2, how to meet more senior individuals in your industry and build a genuine relationship with them. 3, how to approach relationship building with well-connected individuals. 4, how you can rapidly build trust with senior people in your target market. Number 5, some unique ways to approach networking. Number 6, how to use the principle of reciprocity for your business growth. To talk this through, I'm joined by product marketing specialist Alex Urquhart. If you want to find myself or Alex online, please click the links in the description of this podcast episode on whatever platform you're listening on. Let's get started. Hello, Alex. Good to see you for another episode.
Glad to be back, mate. Excited to jump into this one.
Me too. I'm excited because this is a super fun one, I think. I've decided to talk a little bit about some promotional tactics, which everyone loves in marketing and sales. What's the tactics? This will be the most downloaded episode. If I put that in the headline, I know that. So here you go. Have your fun. I'm a strategist, but fine, we'll talk about tactics for a while. And in the context of Urquhart Studios, the B2B company, Sarah's the CEO, and she wants some out-of-the-box ideas. How can a mid-sized B2B company promote themselves? But let's mix it up a bit. What's some creative ideas? Okay, Sarah, I'll tell you a few that come to mind. So what you could do, because companies of this size can be quite unimaginative, and I'm sure you agree with that.
They need examples to see it before they believe it.
Yeah. So which is interesting because, by definition, that can't be that different then. But we'll start off with the basic one because I don't want anyone to get too uncomfortable too quickly. But Sarah, the CEO, she could go speak at industry events or conferences. And it's surprising. It seems kind of logical on the top, but it's surprising how many people don't do that. So that's something you could do with a little bit of internal effort or potentially just a PR freelancer or firm.
Yep.
So,
and maybe just for that point there, so when we say promotional, we're saying sort of that top of funnel, like awareness stuff? Okay.
More tactics.
Okay.
So it could be used anywhere in the buying process, but what's some tactics that you could use and how could you use them?
Yeah, gotcha.
So,
okay, cool.
So event speaking is that tactic, or industry conference presenting.
Gotcha.
Is one way you could go about it. The one that I find really interesting, and it's very relevant considering we're on a podcast right now, is if you have, which Sarah does, which Urquhart Studios has, if you're a B2B company with large LTVs, so when you get a customer, they spend a lot with you, you can create something where you invite that type of senior person into your world. So a podcast can be one of those things, which I have done before. So there's a past company that I helped out. I launched a podcast with them. They were small and they couldn't get to CFOs. It was just a very difficult person to get to, but that's who they need to get to. It's like, well, start a podcast and just invite them on as a guest. And
that's far more enticing than asking them to book us scoping session with them. Yeah.
So that's one thing you could consider as well. And it's surprising to me that more people don't do that, because 95% of these CFOs that I interviewed on this other podcast had never done it before. So you might think they get bombarded, but they don't. And especially if you put a bit of effort into the experience, get them in person. So if Sarah and Upcrafter Studios are in Sydney, you could do local, probably CTOs in their case.
Yep.
Invite them on. Everyone loves talking about their story.
Yep.
Let them talk about their story.
Yep.
Do it later in the day so they don't have to go back to anything else, and take them out for a drink afterwards. It's really something that I've seen work extremely well, because what you can do then is you're building a genuine relationship with these people from the start. You're not selling shit. And I don't recommend selling shit on the first
in general,
time you
but
time
the
you
first
meet them.
time, definitely. Yeah.
So, but it's amazing how they'll open up to you after they've spoken about their story for an hour. So there's something like you start interviewing someone, and that's all well and good, but an hour later, after they've told their whole story, they feel like your friend.
Yeah, good.
So
that trust gets built pretty quick.
Well, yes, it's kind of like a hack, because someone is telling you personal details about themselves, so it's hard to not feel somewhat connected.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can feel a very big difference from the start of the interview to the end.
Gotcha. Interesting.
So,
and you're creating good content too. It's not just with them; it's promoting widespread stuff as well.
Yes.
Yep.
So, which then they love. You promote them and look at this person. Go listen to their story.
Yes. Yep.
And it's very interesting that doesn't get used more.
Yeah.
So when I did it, and I've done it with a couple of podcasts, but I do it with very specific rules, which is that you want them in later in the day so that they don't have to go back to work or whatever.
Yes. Stressed or rushing. Right?
Yeah. And then you want to take them out afterwards, because for an hour or so.
Yep.
Because then you've got that relationship, and that's where they start to open up a bit more.
Yep.
You don't have to think about them as a lead. They could be, and you could scope that out gently over time.
Yeah.
But you could also think about it as like a deep relationship you're building with someone senior in the industry who might refer you.
Yeah.
So
you're building advocates.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you do a lot of work.
Yep.
And they might not want your product themselves. But you can still ask a question at the end. Do you think anyone else that you know would be good for our product?
Yep.
Or needs our product?
Yep.
All that work just to ask that one question. It's surprising how effective that can be as well, because then you're tapping into their network.
Yes.
How do you tap into their network? You have to build the deep relationship first.
Yes, I agree.
That's how you do it.
Yep. And I think too, there's something important there is you're offering something of value to them. It's not just like, oh, can I have your time? And they feel obliged to it. Like as you said, you're promoting their brand. You may be offering something they've never done before.
Yes.
You're helping them. And then that whole, you just mentioned then that cross-pollination of audiences. Like they could be connected to CFOs, like you said. They might be connected to 30 CFOs or 300. And if they share it on their LinkedIn or their profile, then you, by proxy, get that exposure as well. So, yeah, I agree.
Yes.
I completely agree.
But you also get, if you have a relationship with them, you get the personal referral. So if they know another CFO, they will refer you, and the other CFO, second down the track is going to be fine with it because they've been referred by someone trusted.
Yep, and a bit of social proof that this guy endorses them, so they must be all right.
Yep. So that's a bit of an out-of-the-box one. I do recommend doing it in person if you can, just because of the connection you can build and the experience you can give. So I thought about it when I did it as an experience, not as a podcast. So what do you do? Like they come in, if they've got the drinks, the water, like what's there? How have you prepped them? And then, you take them straight to a bar afterwards. You've scoped out the bar, all that type of stuff. So highly recommend it.
Good. Okay.
And it's the only way I know to spend 3 hours of personal time with an executive you don't know.
Yes, I agree. And to your point before about learning from the market, if you get nothing else, you at least talk to someone, you can get a sense of who they are. Like I think whether it's a lead or referral, whatever, you at least gain that.
Exactly.
And I think, and as you said, an important person in their side, you might talk to the middle level people, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you should definitely do that.
So that's one thing you can consider as a out of the box tactic that a lot of people don't think of. And it's really interesting and I've talked about it a lot, and a lot of people still just don't do it. I haven't really figured out why. Speaking about asking good questions, I think I'm asking good questions, but I can't get an answer.
Okay.
Because it's just not happening.
Do you think it's a thing of they just don't know? Like it's this unknown thing that they go, oh, that seems daunting. I don't know how to do that. I don't know. I wouldn't know where to start.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. I was going to say the only reason I say that because I wanted to do webinars with a company.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, have you ever tried webinars? And they said, oh, we've been thinking, tossing these two ideas back and forth for 12 months. And we just had to have the time. And later that week, we'd done a landing page, sent it out to the database, 100 or more, like 200 people signed up. And we did the presentation in 2 hours and we were live in a couple of weeks. And it's like, I think sometimes with those sorts of things, and hopefully people like yourself exist, can come and help them and set them up and at least be like, this isn't just do it.
Yeah.
You won't regret it. Yeah.
What would be interesting then to talk about, I think, is as I tell that story, what resistance do you feel internally as I say that?
As in if I was the client
and
you were to do it?
If you were Sarah.
I think, I'll be honest with you, if I'm putting himself in their shoes, I think you'd get the old school cop out, I'm too busy.
Yep.
You know, like, can you do it? Can you do it for me? Like, you're good at like podcasts. Can you go do it? Everyone wants to outsource. We're addicted to outsourcing. That's the first thing that comes to my head. I'm like, oh, listen, I got so much going on. Like a whole podcast. I don't have time for that. I wouldn't even know where to start.
You don't have time to meet 50 and build good relationships with 50 CTOs a year, Sarah.
Right, right. It's the same as that. Maybe the one
relatively cost effectively too.
Yes, in like a cheap way. And I agree. And this is kind of funny, right? Because it's the same as when we sort of talked about talking to customers many episodes ago. And everyone, I don't have time to do it. It's like, you don't have time to quite do a huge piece of your job is understand your market. Like, how do you not have time for that? I don't get it. And you'll spend 6 hours reorganizing your emails and stuff that doesn't need to be done. So sorry, to answer that question, that's probably the daunting perceived effort, I would say, is like, this is a lot. I don't know what to do. But maybe that's where the tactic comes in, like you were saying, if you could show them how simple it is.
Yeah.
And go, oh, okay. Well, that doesn't seem too sort of daunting. Training wheels on, show it to them, and then push them.
Okay. Any other resistance you feel as I say that?
I'd probably say, the effort, the opportunity cost to be like, I can't step away with what I'm doing. I don't have time to learn anything new, which is ironic, right? Because what you're offering is exactly what they need to be doing. It's talking to the customers, and I think the back of my head to go, what's the cost? Do I have to buy a huge podcast setup? Have I got to take a course on podcasting? Like, what do I have to do to get to that point? Is it scary? Is it not? And I think if I don't know that, even if I did know it, what's that whole thing? If people fear uncertainty than anything else, it's not that if they find out it does take 3 weeks to get set up, maybe they go, okay, that's not too bad. I'm willing to do that. But I think it's the unknowns and the unfamiliarity of it.
Yes.
By far, I think.
Yes, and probably the change in process. It takes a chunk out of some day. It's quite a different thing. It is. But anyway, she asked me for out-of-the-box tactics, so there you go.
There you go. Okay.
So you could use the principle still and think of it as, how do we create an experience for the people that we want to...
not a lead magnet's not the right thing, but in a way, the same principle. It's not. We all want to talk. Every business in the world wants to talk to executives, and they want to get good leads and introductions. But I agree, you've got to come to the table with something that's better than talk to me here, book a meeting, which some 99% of people do. There's one, actually, just remind, there's one we did for that same sort of principle doing the events, and I dragged a CEO because they didn't like the sales side of things. They were a technical person, but as you said, they should be the lime. Like, it's so powerful that they stand the limelight at events. And there was an event we looked at, and it was like $40,000 for a booth and potentially a speaking spot. And it was like, my goodness, $40,000. And so we were like, hang on, what if we just did our own lunch and learn? And we just got a caterer in and did a mini version. We invited people in, that whole attractive in, and we did a speaking spot, and we even invited someone else to come and speak and share their thoughts. And I think the food, it was like full unlimited alcohol and 2-course lunch and a room booked out for $2,000. As opposed to 40 for this for this conference. And we sent it out to our database, and we even started doing outreach to people because we're like, we'd love to talk to that executive at this company we really wanted to talk to, ignored us all this time. Sent them emails, say, hey, we're doing a lunch and learn. We're going to be talking about this really specific topic that's important for executives. Would you like to come along? And we sort of made a bit like, hey, we're going to give each company 2 tickets. If you want a third, you've got to pay. Trying to create some value around it. And we were hoping to get 20, and we got 30 within 2 days.
Nice.
And like the caliber was, we had one CTO, but it was like head of operations, head of innovation, head of technology in this area. And these were big companies. This isn't a 30 person, this is a 10,000 company. And it was awesome. And to your point, we like got them in. Our CEO got to talk to them for I think about 45 minutes to an hour while they ate lunch. It was really nice. That was a great bonus for them. And he got to cement himself as that industry expert. Like he saw, and they had all these really interesting questions, and everyone came up to him and said, "Listen, I know nothing about this topic, and I really should. This was helpful, but can I take your card because I'll come back to you for ideas, or I'll come back to you when I need help with this." And that's all you want.
Yes.
And it was so good. And it was like the most cost-effective, but yet the most effective thing we've done in that sense.
Yeah, cool.
And yeah, and I still stand by it, particularly startups that need cheap versions of it. And you could do one. We've done similar ones with coffee.
Yes.
Like, hey, we'll put on a free coffee and a donut, right? It costs you bugger all for that. Even hiring a barista for like 2 hours.
Yeah.
We'll do a speech. We'll do a demonstration. We'll show you some stuff. Come and learn something of an afternoon. I like that idea you're saying, the afternoon. I think that's good. Yeah, I think that's such an enjoyable way of engaging with your market.
Yes.
Almost community building, I guess, in a way.
For sure. And that's a tactic I've used as well, but with a little bit of a twist where I've had people run events at night and you can run your own sort of networking events for executives. You don't call it that. You just call it come along to like a meet and greet. No agenda. Book out a section of a bar. They all want to come because they want to meet each other, but you're centering yourself in the middle of it.
Yes.
You're the one putting it on. And again, probably $2,000.
Yes.
You can, for drinks and just nibbles and stuff.
Hire and
Yeah, you get 30 people along to that.
Yep.
You'd be sneaky and bring some of your customers along as well.
I was about to
get them mingling with your non-customers. And it's quite low pressure because there's no selling, there's no anything like that. And that's quite a decent nurturing tactic, I'd say, for B2B companies. Again, this type of stuff, you typically need the big LTVs, but in my experience anyway. But that's another out-of-the-box tactic I would use.
Yes.
And you can use it in combination with others.
Yep.
You could we used to, for one of my clients back in the day, put on 2 of these a year. So it might be March and September, say.
Yep.
And you're just getting in touch with them every 6 months. You're inviting them along.
Yep.
You're keeping that relationship. And it can serve as a bit of an anchor point to bounce off.
Yep.
So sometimes a client or a prospect, they're not going to buy for another year.
Yep.
But here's a way to keep them nurtured as well.
And memorably, not just follow up. Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk? Do you want to talk? You're actually giving them something.
Yes. Yep. So that's one thing you can think of as well. So again, quite low cost really for, I think, the value.
Yep.
I just find a lot of companies don't have the courage, really, is what it is. It's not the cost because they waste way more money on that, as we know, on heaps of other shit. So it's not the cost per se. It's just, again, the unknown.
Yes.
But you think about it, if you just bring along some people to an event at night, no pressure.
Yep.
We'll put on the drinks, no agenda. Come here for 2 hours and meet other people like you that they wouldn't know.
Yes.
Don't be scared that not many people would turn up. The most commercially successful event I ever put on in using this tactic was when 3 C-suite people came along.
Okay.
But they all ended up being clients.
Oh, really?
So, and they had a good night.
Yeah.
And it went from being sort of an open outdoor space to a table.
Yep.
But
it's pretty intimate then. You just
exactly. Yeah. So don't be you haven't done worse than me, so don't worry. Yeah. I've had 3 turn up, but that event was worth hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to the business in revenue.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I've had events where 20 or 25 come along, and you can't see as much of a direct
attribution to
it.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to try it. If you just own it and go, well, hey, here's 3 other people.
And if you do it authentically as well, because I totally agree. I think that's probably the reason so many don't do it. One, they don't know what to do, and they're terrified of looking stupid, and they sort of go like, oh, what if one person rocks up? And like worst case, if you did that and say you're going on the day and one person's RSVP, you can always cancel.
Yes.
And you can always be like, oh, listen, I'm so sorry, mate. Like something's come up, we'll send you something, or whatever it is, just to say thanks. But if that happens, but to your point, if 3 people rock up, then just lean into it and go like. My line is always like, hey, we're trying to build a community, which is not untrue. It's like, hey, we just want to meet more people. We want to connect more people. We want to like have a chat about this topic that whatever your business is in. If 4 people are here, cool, let's sit and have a beer and have some dinner and chat. If 50 people are here, great, let's do it. But people, I think, respect that. Like if someone said that to you, you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. You know, good on you for having a crack, and I'll come down and you know, like I'd like to meet more people, but I see what you're doing and I back it.
And you'd be surprised at how many senior people, do respect that as well. You having a go.
Yes. Yeah,
that's the other thing.
Yes,
is
they're not these unattainable people to talk to.
No, and that's the other point I was going to make is, they're human.
They're normal people.
Yeah, and making these human connections is immensely powerful.
Yes. Yep.
They once you're connected with someone, if you've got a deep connection, you can ask questions that you normally wouldn't be able to ask. You can it's more a relaxed environment, and they sort of open up a bit more.
Yes.
And you get the nuance of the situation. So I don't recommend on those nights actually trying to talk about your business too much. That's the tempting thing, or let's go pitch it around to everyone. It's really difficult to do on those nights.
Yep.
If you want another specific that I would add in there is when they leave at the end of the night, what I recommend doing typically is, shake your hand. Thanks for coming along. We should catch up for a coffee soon. Do you have any time soon? So instead of trying to talk about you that night, give them a good time, give them good experience. At the end of the night, just try and seed the next conversation.
Yes, I agree.
And then you can talk about business.
Yeah. Or even to that same point, even the downloadable or a giveaway or something like that. I think that's another one, right? Like you can send a week later, like let it sort of die down, let it calm off. And then if you I've done before, we can send them a like here's a summary of the day. If you've got colleagues that couldn't come along or whatever it is, this is probably more if you're on a lunch and learn or a topic that you guys talked about, or like, hey, here's the industry trends our CEO spoke about on the night. Here's a 1-pager. Share it with your team if you're not, and then at least buys that one to go, hey, did you enjoy the night? Like, what do you recommend like next time? And hopefully pick that conversation up. You've got to be genuine. Like, don't fake it just to try and get a lead. But like, to your point before, if people are comfortable to talk to you about it, it's not really selling. You are hearing the problem, and if they raise things that you go, I can probably help with that, then that's all it is. Hey, if you ever want help with that, I can do this.
It's not selling; it's solving.
Right. Yeah.
But it's interesting you say it's not selling. Well, selling's fine though.
Yeah. It is. But I mean, I guess it comes down to what's the definition of selling, and I think it's got such a dirty word.
That hard sell connotation.
Yeah. Well, people could call it a sell like as if you have any control over the person's behavior. Like I don't be forced into something. We're going off on a tangent now, but I will say there is just in that last note, because I'm very people who listen to this, I think particularly founders of startups, selling's fine. We all want to sell, but there's a book called Never Split the Difference. Have you ever read it before?
I haven't, but I've heard about it a lot.
Okay, it's very good, and I recommend because he says the 2 things you need in any version of a sale is they need to feel comfortable and in control.
Wow. Okay.
And it's that being. And if you really dive into it, the reason people hate, because everyone hates sales people, is because they feel like they're going to be forced to do something they don't want to do. They feel like they're going to have to pay for something or get swindled into a bad deal. And it's like, if you can make this person at all times go, at any moment you can leave and be legitimate. We're not going to lock you in. If you're not happy, you can give your money back. You've got zero risk. Everything is okay. You'd be so surprised, because then that's just trust. You'd be so surprised how quickly and openly and generous that they'll be. But the moment, even if there is a right fit, and you can help them, if you push them and make them feel uncomfortable or make them feel like they're being forced to do something they don't want to do, they'll shut you down. So yes, I think present the opportunity, solving, not selling, or whatever you just said there. I think that's a good one.
What's the other one? People like to buy, but they don't like to be sold to.
Everyone likes to buy. No one likes to be sold to. Yeah.
So, all right. Well, unless you've got another out-of-the-box tactic coming to mind, we can wrap that up there.
I'm just keep rambling, but this is good. I really enjoy it.
Hope that helps, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Push Podcast. Please remember to subscribe, and if you are enjoying the episodes, please leave a review of the podcast on your platform of choice. It really helps to build the podcast credibility and to help others find this type of information.